Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders, make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. And I love coming to you almost every week to talk about all things leadership that help you make a bigger impact. And I fundamentally believe that strategy, our planning, and operations, which is our system of executing stuff, getting stuff done, need to be integrally connected. If they are not, we get potentially great plans that don't go anywhere, or we get bad plans that we don't realize are bad because we haven't tested them yet. Or without a lot of execution, without a great plan, we end up wasting a lot of time and energy doing the wrong things. And today I want to talk a little bit about one of the ways in which we inadvertently get held back in our budgeting process. So I want to talk about how oftentimes we get our budgeting priority signals crossed. So oftentimes we look at our budget as this document that you have to follow, right? It's a limiting factor. I have to get my board to approve my budget. I need to follow my budget. My budget is, I'm off track from my budget. I don't have that in my budget. I can't spend that because it's not in my budget, or I have to spend on this because it is in the budget and there's no flexibility. Do any of those ring true for you? I know I've felt that way in the past for some of them, and I hear that from executive directors often. And what I want to invite you to reframe is that your budget is the numerical representation of your financial plan. So, like, that actual spreadsheet is a way of communicating your financial plan. And another day, we'll talk about how you can actually lay your budget out in different ways so that it speaks to you. And I do really want to encourage you to realize that if your budget, however it's laid out, if you don't look at it and see opportunity and see plans potentially coming true and see valuable information, then you don't have it where it could be, because a great budget can be a great tool, but it's just one of many planning tools. So one of the ways that I see people feeling like their budget is like this constraint as opposed to a tool that helps you make better decisions is how they prioritize where they spend their money. And so often we prioritize the bottom line, right? Is it positive or is it negative? And when it's negative, we go often straight to let's cut some expenses to make sure that it's not negative. And sometimes, so if that's you, right, just think about that for a second. Do you go, "Oh my God, our budget isn't balanced. The bottom, we look straight to the bottom number and we say it's negative. We need to cut some expenses." Another way people end up kind of prioritizing the wrong things in their budget related to that bottom line is they say, "Oh, it's negative. We need to increase our revenue." And they just start kind of manipulating the revenue line without really also manipulating the correlating expenses that go with increasing revenue. And still, one other way people get wrapped up in the priorities of their budget is saying, like, I don't have that in my budget, right? Like, that budget, that expense wasn't planned for. So let's just talk about reframing things a little. If we think of our budget as a snapshot of our financial plan, saying, and it really should read like this: if we spend in XYZ areas, and I want you to think of spending as pulling a lever, right? So if we pull a financial lever, if we spend money here, are we going to get impact, right? Are we going to get increased delivery of our programming, whatever it is? Or are we going to get money out? Or maybe we'll get both. Maybe we'll get impact and money, right? So if you have a program where you charge for the service, then, right, that is both. When you pull that lever, you get more income and get to make more impact. Or maybe you pull the lever on a fundraising initiative, right? Maybe you say, we're going to really get great at major gifts this year. And so we're going to pull that fundraising lever, right? We're going to start pouring in more major gift ingredients into our financial plan. So what I'm inviting you to think about with your spending priorities, with your budget priorities, is to be creating solutions, right? So if you say we need more money, then I want you to say, where can we spend more to get more, right? Because you usually have to spend more to get more. Or where can we spend smarter, right? Maybe we can't just spend more, we have to bootstrap a bit. And so when we're thinking about bootstrapping, we want to think about reallocating resources. So maybe where I see this a lot, like organizations are fundraising efforts are scattered across many types of activities. And actually, if they consolidated and concentrated their efforts on one type of activity, they can bring in actually a lot more without without actually adding in more cash or just shifting things. I also see this in organizations who are spending a lot on programming and actually can pull back, but we're not cutting the budget. We're reallocating, right? How we're spending money. So we're going to take some of the money we've been spending on programming and we're going to put it towards an area that's going to generate revenue, which then will pay for itself and bring in more money to kind of rebuild the programming. So by focusing on the bottom line or by focusing on what you're allowed or not allowed to do in your budget, we often hold ourselves back. And if instead we think about our budget as a set of assumptions about what our expenses are going to do to our revenue and our impact, and then as we go through life, as we go through doing the work, if we have new discoveries all the time, right? That's the amazing thing about doing the work and then reflecting on what we've done is we discover information and we learn what works and what doesn't. So we can say, and also the world changes, right? So we can say, oh, we thought spending on this was going to bring in, a certain amount of money. We thought if we spent $20,000 over here, we'd get $100,000 back. But that doesn't seem to be working out as we planned. So let's start shifting the way we're spending to get the kind of return that we wanted. Or maybe we're thinking that, oh, we have an opportunity. We weren't planning to spend $5,000 on a new video, but we have this opportunity to level up. And get an extra $100,000 back. So does it matter if it's an extra $100,000 of revenue that wasn't in your financial plan, that wasn't in your budget? and you're going to spend $5,000 to get that extra $100,000. Do we need to worry that that $5,000 spend is not in our budget? Really, because the money coming in wasn't in our plan, and neither was the expense. So we need to think about the risk, right? How likely are we to get that $100,000 from spending the 5,000? But if it's highly likely, then it makes total sense, and we shouldn't be constrained of getting that. We shouldn't say, "No, we don't want that we're not gonna take that $100,000 opportunity because we didn't plan on spending that $5,000." There's always opportunities to bring in more money or make more impact that come up. And then we just need to adapt our plan. Now we can go to our budget and say, "Okay, now we know we're adding $5,000 here in expenses, pulling a fundraising lever that we didn't know we could pull when we first wrote this budget, and we're gonna add $100,000 to the revenue," right? And now our total financial situation is looking even better. So that's probably the number one thing I see when I see organizations constraining themselves unnecessarily is they're not making investments to bring in more revenue or to make a bigger impact because they didn't plan on having that opportunity. But that's not the nature of opportunities, right? Opportunities, we don't always know them in advance. Now, there's another day we can talk about ways to kind of create opportunities or be on the lookout for opportunities. But today, I just invite you to stop thinking about your budget as a frame that constrains you and start thinking about it as an expression of your financial plan that you can and should evolve as new information becomes available and you have the opportunity to make that plan even better. Until next time, I wish you all the best.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.